The sound of 100 people holding their breath is louder than any scream. One moment, I was at the top of the grand staircase in my parents' mansion, a vision in my grandmother's lace wedding gown, my hand on my father's arm. The next, a sharp, brutal shove between my shoulder blades. The world became a tumbling kaleidoscope of white fabric, polished wood, and shattered crystal from my bouquet. I didn't scream. The air was knocked from my lungs. I landed in a heap at the bottom, a pile of broken dreams and searing pain, silence, then chaos. Through the ringing in my ears, I heard my sister's voice, shrill and dramatic above the rest. Oh my God, she tripped. She must have fainted, but I hadn't fainted. And I hadn't tripped. As I'd lifted my train, I'd seen her reflection in the hall mirror behind me. My twin sister, Celeste, her face, a mask of vicious triumph, not shock. The ambulance took me away from my own wedding. A fractured collarbone, 3 broken ribs, a concussion, and a spiral fracture in my right arm. My fiancé, Daniel, rode with me, his face ashen. The doctor said it was a miracle you didn't break your neck, he whispered, holding my good hand. At the hospital, my family descended. My parents were a flurry of anxiety. An accident, a terrible accident, my mother cried, wringing her hands, my father paced, and Celeste? Celeste was the picture of devastated concern, dabbing at non-existent terrors. I tried to grab her train to steady her, she sobbed to anyone who would listen. It all happened so fast. I looked at her from my hospital bed, the pain medication making the world soft at the edges, but my mind razor sharp. You push me. The room froze. Celeste's eyes widened, filling with fresh, convincing tears. Alessia, how could you say that? I love you. I would never. My mother rushed to Celeste's side. Sweetheart, don't. She's confused. She's in shock and on medication. My father looked at me, disappointment etching his face. Don't make this worse, Allie. It was an accident. No one is to blame. Daniel stiffened beside me. He'd seen the dynamic before Celeste, the fragile, perfect one, and me, the difficult, competitive twin. But he said nothing. The united front of my family was a wall he couldn't breach. The wedding was, of course, postponed indefinitely. My recovery was long and lonely. Daniel tried, but the constant drama, the way my family tiptoed around Celeste while expecting me to just move on, drove a wedge between us. 6 months later, he called it quits. I can't fight your family for you, Allie, and you won't let me in to fight with you. The day he left, Celeste comforted me. Some men just can't handle strong women, she sighed. A secret victory in her eyes. She'd gotten what she wanted. She'd always been jealous of Daniel, of the attention, of the life I was building that didn't revolve around her. My family held an intervention. They said I was consumed by paranoia and bitterness. They suggested therapy. They gave Celeste a larger share of the family trust to help with her emotional distress from the false accusation. I looked at them, my parents, my sister, and felt nothing. No love, no hate, just a vast, empty clarity. They had chosen their narrative, and in doing so, they had severed the last thread. I packed a single suitcase. I left the mansion, the city, and the person they thought I was behind. I changed my last name. I became Alessia Gray, and I vowed that the next time I saw my sister, she would know exactly what she had done, and the world would know with her. I used this small, secret inheritance from my godmother money my parents didn't know about to move across the country. I settled in a rainy coastal town where no one knew the story of the twin who fell. I had one skill they never valued, a preternatural eye for art and authenticity. While Celeste took painting classes for hobby, I had studied art history and conservation. I got a job at a gritty auction house, starting in the mailroom. I learned everything. How to spot a forgery from the varnish. How to trace provenance through faded receipts and diary entries. How to build a network of buyers and sellers who operated on discretion and vast amounts of money. By day, I was the quiet, diligent cataloger. By night, I built Gray Authentication, a discreet online consultancy for ultra-wealthy collectors. My specialty, recovering stolen art and exposing frauds. Every time I helped a billionaire recover a masterpiece a crook dealer had swindled from them, my reputation and my bank account grew. My clients knew me only as Gray. I was a ghost, but a powerful one. I followed my family from a distance. Celeste, buoyed by her larger share of the trust, had become a minor socialite and our patron. She married a blandly wealthy man from their circle. She started a gallery, Celeste's Curated, using our family name and connections to sell mediocre work at inflated prices. She was, I noted with cold satisfaction, skimming from the top and laundering money for a few of her husband's shady associates. She was playing in the big leagues with a plastic sword. It took 8 years. 8 years of building my fortress of expertise and capital, then the opportunity landed in my lap. A reclusive European client, Mr. V, contacted Gray Authentication. He believed a newly discovered and exorbitantly priced, lost masterpiece by a famous painter, going up for auction at the most prestigious house in New York, was a forgery. The seller was a shell corporation. The work was being championed by a prominent gallery. Celeste's Curated, she was taking a massive finder's fee. This was it, the perfect storm. I took the case. The forensic analysis was complex, but my years of study paid off. The pigments were historically inaccurate, the canvas stitching was from a later period. The provenance was a fabricated paper trail, and I found the digital fingerprints of the forger a talented but notorious criminal ID crossed paths with before. I compiled a dossier of evidence so airtight it could sink a fleet, but I didn't send it to Mr. V, not yet. First, I made sure the painting sold. I let the auction proceed. I watched the live stream as the gavel came down for a record sum, with Celeste's gallery taking its cut. Let her have her triumph, let her spend the money. Let the fraud reach its zenith. Then I anonymously leaked the first piece of evidence to an investigative art blogger, a side-by-side comparison of the flawed pigment under microscopy with a known sample. The art world blogosphere ignited. Celeste went on the defensive, giving tearful interviews about being a victim of a sophisticated scam. She blamed her experts, her authenticators. She played the fragile, deceived beauty perfectly. That's when I released the rest, not anonymously, but as Alessia Gray, CEO of Gray Authentication. I held a digital press conference, my face come on 1,000 screens. I presented the evidence with devastating clarity. I showed the link between the Shell Corporation and the forger, and I revealed that Celeste's gallery had ignored 3 separate, private warnings about the work's authenticity from independent experts. Warnings I had proof of because the profit margin was too tempting. It wasn't just fraud, it was willful, negligent fraud for personal gain. The fallout was nuclear. The beer sued, the auction house sued. Criminal investigations were opened. Celeste's gallery collapsed, taking her husband's shaky finances with it. My parents, their name dragged through the mud, finally saw their golden child for what she was, a greedy, reckless fraud, but I wasn't done. The criminal trial lasted 6 months. I was the star witness for the prosecution. I flew back to the city I'd fled. The day I was to testify, I dressed carefully, an ivory silk blouse, hairstyled simply. I wanted to look like the ghost of the girl she'd pushed down the stairs, but stronger, unbreakable. In the hallway outside the courtroom, I saw my family. My parents had aged a decade. They saw me and flinched. They didn't approach. The chasm was too wide, filled with the wreckage of their choices. Celeste was surrounded by her lawyers. When she saw me, the mask of scared innocence she'd worn throughout the trial shattered into pure, undiluted hate. You, she spat, you did this, you ruined my life. I stopped, looking at her calmly. No, Celeste. You did that when you chose to commit fraud. I just turned on the lights so everyone could see. This is about the stairs, isn't it? She hissed, stepping closer. After all these years, you're still that jealous little girl. I smiled then, a small cold thing. The stairs? That was just you showing me who you were. This, I gestured to the courtroom, is me believing you. My testimony was clinical, factual, and damning. I didn't mention the stairs. I didn't need to. The jury saw the pattern, a woman who would destroy anything in her path for what she wanted. The guilty verdict was read. Fraud, money laundering, conspiracy. The sentencing hearing was scheduled for a month later. I came back for that, too. Not as a witness, but as a spectator. I wanted to see the ending. Celeste stood before the judge, a diminished figure in a cheap suit, finally out of tears. Her husband had left her. My parents sat in the back, their support now a hollow, obligatory thing. The judge recited her crimes, then he addressed her. You operated with a staggering sense of entitlement, Ms. Thorne, causing millions in damages and undermining public trust in the art market. This was not a mistake, it was a calculated series of choices, and then he sentenced her to 8 years in federal prison. A soft, gasping wail escaped her. She turned, her eyes scanning the courtroom, and they locked on mine. I held her gaze, my face serene, my hands clasped in my lap. I let her see the complete absence of pity, the quiet, unwavering justice. She was led away in cuffs. I stood and walked out of the courthouse into the sunlight. The same sun that had shone on my wedding day. I took a deep breath. The air no longer smelled of pain and betrayal. It just smelled like a city, indifferent and alive. My phone buzzed, a text from my head of security. The press is gathering. Do you want to make a statement? I looked at the swarm of reporters. For a decade, I'd been a ghost, a story, a victim, a accuser. Now, I was just a woman who had built a life from ashes. I walked towards them, my heels clicking a steady, final rhythm on the stone steps. I had nothing left to hide and nothing more to say to the sister in the mirror. The chapter was closed. The next one was mine alone to write.